Hello everyone, my name is Brianne. I am the creator behind Soul's Compass Healing. I offer evolutionary astrology, Akashic record, and energy reading support sessions. You can check out the links in my description below. Today we are somehow gathered to talk about this full moon in Aries happening on September 29th, 2023. I would like to take a moment to dedicate this lunar report to all of the souls, the bright, bright souls who are born into this world and dealt a very difficult hand of cards, and therefore choose to leave us quite early on in their life. It never ceases to puzzle me how the brightest souls always seem to have the hardest life experiences from such a young age. And so, this report is in dedication to those souls, those brave, brave souls. They bring a new, an entirely different level of bravery to that definition of what it means to be brave. Okay, let's talk about the fact that the sun is conjunct Pallas Athena in the sign of Libra, of course, at the time of this full moon. And we could also mention that it's trine Pluto. What is justice? When does it prevail? What does it feel like in the body? Look like on the outside? Sound to our ears? I bet most of us would have a hard time answering these questions due to the lack of actual justice occurring throughout history and in our current lifetime. Many marginalized or oppressed groups in society are familiar with the reality that justice can take hundreds of years, if not more, to prevail. Bits and pieces may be felt in a lifetime, and they are held onto with fierce protection. So, Pallas Athena has to do with justice. That's where I'm launching this report from. Instinct is what we associate with Aries, Mars. So, what is the relationship between instinct and justice? When justice occurs, the intelligence of the body turns on an instinctual reaction, namely the fight, flight, freeze, trauma responses. They are mechanisms of protection intended to be used for the short-term utilization of dealing with the situation at hand. And when developed into long-term coping mechanism, these effects are detrimental to our overall health in our body, in all of its parts. So I'm talking about mental health and physical health and emotional health and spiritual health, all of it. Family health. This is one of many factors contributing to the fact that oppressed peoples are more likely to have health problems, addictions, mental illness than anybody else in the world. So, this is why I cringe when I hear people say commentaries such as, oh, look at those people on the street. Why can't they just get their shit together and get a job so that they don't have to be living off of the system? You know, I pay my taxes. Roddy rah rah. You have no idea. And this report is not meant to waste my breath on you if you are one of those people. But if you are open to hearing other points of view on the matter, you are most welcome to listen. Okay, let's talk about the fact that this moon is in third quarter square to Vesta in the sign of Cancer, is semi-square Uranus, and is sextile Chariklo. Perhaps a sudden event has the power to put question marks around our work in the world. The nature of the event may bring up many deep feelings begging to be felt in a safe space. Carve out some time and space to feel this. The answers to the question marks won't appear on their own. They may, however, come more easily once they are given adequate time, space, contemplation, and perhaps even asking and receiving feedback with others. May I remind you that this cycle was initiated by a Virgo new moon, so the inner critic may be on the clock and ready to rock. And I'm intentionally using humor here because, just to take some of the edge off of that inner critic, who can be so ruthless. Questions may be, so the questions that might be coming up for folks right now is, it could be many things. I'm just offering, some suggestions here by what I'm seeing in the chart. It could be around the amount of time, energy, and resources we put into our work and what we get out of it in order to make a living wage. The questions could pertain to our passion projects, which we create, but there's no real earnings coming out of it. It's just, our thing that we will do anyways. And so is it time to pivot to something new or switch out a few key ingredients? A pioneering edge may be calling. Now is a good time to take stock of the needs of our communities and those we work with, and reflect on what we have capacity to hold space for moving forward. I would like to talk about Venus. She is conjunct Juno, Black Moon Lilith, in the sign of Leo, and as I've been talking about in my previous reports, we've been tracking this very profound Venus cycle which has taken place over the past 3 months. a retrograde journey in the sign of Leo, a descension into the underworld, and a rising up. So she's meeting and traveling with Juno for this whole lunar cycle. And this is their third and last square to Uranus throughout this period that I'm talking about. They are opposing Saturn, which will be waxing. It will continue to grow in its perfection throughout the end of this cycle. And it is trine the North Node, which is also including Aries and Chiron, who are hanging out at the North Node of the Moon and have been. And it's semi-square the Sun and Pallas Athena, who both are illuminating this full moon and supercharging it with supercharging it with themes of justice, I guess we could say. Themes of justice and injustice. Okay. Anyways, where was I going with this? So bringing it on back to Venus and Juno and that journey that I was talking about. What about the inner marriage? Not many people talk about this. The communion that is kept with oneself. The more solid this is, equals to greater confidence and ease with the flow of relationships. And I don't mean that relationships become easy. I'm talking about the capacity to navigate relationships increasingly. It's no secret that relationships of any nature require hard work for healthy maintenance. Just like how plants need water and sunlight to grow, relationships need nurturing as well. This circles back to the point I made at the last eclipse season, which was about how, yes, we all have the responsibility for self-care, and we all have the responsibility for communal care. So our society is funny. Sometimes, in certain lenses and arenas, it's extremely individual focused, this whole propaganda around self-care. There's so much pressure for people to take care of themselves. Simultaneously, there's also so much pressure for people to give up themselves in relationship and to just like dissolve themselves in relationship with the other. And it's the reason that I'm bringing this up. Obviously, the moon's nodes are in the Aries Libra axis. This moon is along this axis. Venus and Juno have a lot to say about this. So this is a huge theme right now to actually dissect what is that conditioning about? And how do we untangle that? Because it's confusing. And I really do think that the easiest way to untangle it is to remember that we all have the responsibility to take care of ourselves and others. It's both. And it doesn't mean that I guess, we have a lot of practicing to do to refine that process in terms of When I'm giving to myself, am I, is it causing detriment to those around me? When I'm giving to others, is it causing detriment to myself? It always is about finding this balance. And yeah, I think that, as I said, we have a lot of practice to do on that. Are we, by and large, societally set up for this? No. And what was I talking about? I was talking about, this whole self-care, communal care thing. A few of us may be feeling a restlessness to change that. Like me. All it takes is a few of these folks to join together and trailblaze new structures of support to address the wounds and injustices in the world. Great initiatives can come from these periods of realizing that where we're at isn't good enough. I've seen it time again in the field of social work that if we are not continually striving to refine the structures of support in our societies, then we have big problems, which sadly affect people's lives in very tragic ways. What I'm referring to should be obvious to those who at least have one eye open to objectively view the current structures of support that are available. But no pressure. Here's where we are reminded that we are not put on this planet to save each other. Guilt need not apply. Let's talk about Mars. Mars is the ruler of this full moon. God, I love that Aries energy. Mars is in Libra, conjunct the South Node at the time of this full moon, in third quarter square to Pluto in Capricorn, who is still retrograde. Quincunxed Uranus, sexy quadrate Saturn, and trining Venus and her party that she's having with Juno and Black Moon Lilith in Leo. So, let's unpack that, eh? Perhaps we are being reminded of a time where individuality and relationship with others had many blurred lines, which may have created a soul-level crisis in how we stand out there in the world. Or not. Perhaps this was or is accompanied with a feeling of a restless depression, where something has got to change, yet nothing ever does. So the grace here is in the sextile to Venus, Juno, and Black Moon Lilith, and this conjunction having its third and final square to Uranus, as I mentioned. Is there even an ounce of measurable liberation now compared to then? And I guess you can fill in the then blank to be, 3 months ago, or whatever other amount of time you want to plug in there. Honor the instinctual direction you took from your gut to get to where you are today. Even if it's just a slightly more liberated version of yourself. Just as the instinctual wisdom of wolf exemplifies to us how to remain wild and free through knowing when to be the lone wolf and when to join a pack. May we all lean into our instinctual nature for the liberation of ourselves and others. It's about liberation, folks. And yeah, I just want to close this lunar report by acknowledging the human sadness that is felt when the world is so unjust, the world is so unfair. Souls are born into a stack of cards against them. Intergenerational cultural genocide, intergenerational violence, intergenerational addictions. The list can go on, and yet these souls, they they still shine so brightly. They still give. They still inspire. And it's really sad when the liberation that they seek can sometimes only be found when they choose to leave this world. And so this is the reality of our world, the fine mechanics of why that is. I can understand a few theories, but I don't know why. And it's something that I think we all should take a step back and ponder on. And ponder on if liberation is a part of our healing journey, then supporting one another in ways that we can help each other see that maybe it doesn't need to be an all or nothing liberation step. Maybe it's liberation in small doses. Maybe it's liberation in the capacity that one is able. So yeah, I just want to give respect where respect is due in this report. and that is to the oppressed peoples who are dealt extremely hard hands and still find ways to liberate themselves and still find ways to shine their light so brightly. And for that, I am extremely humbled, and I am extremely grateful, and I'm extremely inspired to continue trying to do my work in the world in some way, shape, or form, even though sometimes the effort seems futile when we look at how long it takes for this massive system to change. Yeah, it's I just want to close with one comment that I sometimes get when I talk with people and I tell them that I'm a social worker. Sometimes I get the response, oh wow, that must be really hard to work with those people. That's the best part about the job. What's really hard is working within the system. Yeah. It's an inherently unjust system. And so we must seek liberation, and we must adjust our eyes and our senses, our hearing, our touch, our feelings, to all of the various textures and colors and ways that liberation can manifest. Because it is here. It can happen on Earth too. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening. Wishing you all a blood pumping liberation seeking in the most balanced of ways full moon. Take care.